If you've been watching the channel for a while, you might remember I used to make buying guides. For example, we made some on like the DS and the 3DS and the PlayStation Portable. So today I figured we'd finally return to those, except now we'd be diving into some consoles. And in the case of today, it is the PlayStation 4 that we will be covering. I do have some notes up here on the side just to kind of keep me organized as we go. So we're going to be talking about the console, some of the accessories, controllers, and of course, games. So let's not waste any time. Let's just go ahead and get right into it, yeah? When it comes to the console, there is three different models. You have the original model, which is typically referred to as the fat model. You have the slim model, which is the one that I generally recommend, and then you have the pro model. I do have one of the models on hand, that being the slim model right here. Now, personally, there's a few different reasons why I'd recommend this. First things first, this is just like a really nice looking system. I've always thought that the slim looks really clean. For a while when it first released, I wasn't sure how I felt about it because I thought the original design was cool, right? Where like the bottom and the top part are like the same size, but I don't know. I really like this design. It's pretty clean. But the reason that I would recommend the slim out of all of them is that it's usually the cheapest. It's the most compact. It has a lower rate of hardware issues compared to, say, the original fat model, which in itself, it wasn't like a Red Ring of Death situation where there was like a lot of hardware issues with the original PS4. There really wasn't any at all. It's just that when it comes to overall failure rate, even though it's already very low for the original PS4 and you're not going to have any problems if you get one, the hardware rate, like failure rate, is even lower with the slim. It is also worth noting that the slim is also noticeably a bit quieter, whereas the original PS4 is infamous for sounding like a jet engine when you boot up like literally any game. And while yes, you know, you could shell out some extra money for the Pro if you really wanted to, at that point you'd be spending an extra $100 to $200, and you might as well just save up that extra money to get the PS5, which already runs PS4 games at their PS4 Pro enhanced state, and in some cases actually runs the games even better, because if you look at a game like Knack, for example, which always ran at an unlocked frame rate on PlayStation 4 and usually hovered around the 30 to 40 FPS mark, it was still a rather unstable and inconsistent experience just due to the fact that it was an unlocked frame rate and it wasn't reaching like, say, even 60 FPS. But now on PS5, and this is something that not even PS4 Pro could do, it's finally hitting 60 FPS on that game and maintaining that 60 FPS on the PS5 and the PS5 Pro. So, you know, at that point, again, if you really just want the best experience for your PS4 games, the PS5 is the best PS4. And if I'm gonna be honest, when it comes to the PS4 Pro, while yes, some of the enhancements are nice and some of the different options, I just always found that, you know, with my experience of using all of the PS4 models, I just found the slim to be the overall best bang for buck, the best one to go for. I might be a bit biased there since this is just the one that I've owned and put the most time into compared to other ones that I've just tried in the past. But you know, that's my take on it anyway. In terms of storage, each model comes with 500, 1TB, and 2TB respectively. There may be like other editions that come with more, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Each console can also be upgraded to house an additional 8TB of storage via an external hard drive or, you know, solid state drive if you would plug it up to that. Personally, I'd recommend getting like at least a 1TB just so you have a bit of a happy medium. Let's say your external hard drive would fail one day, then you'd always have a good size backup in here. That's what I have, a 1TB. 2TB, I don't think that's overkill. I think that would actually, you know, if you can shell out the extra money for it and if you find one in good condition, I would say 2TB would actually be the way to go. But if you're just looking for something where it's like, hey, you know, I just wanted to store a couple games, I don't mind deleting and installing some games here and there if I plan to, you know, hold a good bit, then yeah, 1TB will do you just fine. But I think 500 gig is just a little too low, especially considering how big some of the games were in the latter half, or I mean, not even just in the latter half of the generation. I mean, you look at a game like GTA 5, which came out early on in the generation. I mean, it was a remaster of the original GTA 5, but still, I mean, that game was freaking massive and is still freaking massive on PS4, so 1TB. Do keep in mind there is also different editions of these consoles. There's like the Black Ops 3 version, the Spider-Man 3 version, for example, a bunch of different colors, so do keep that in mind if that's something that you're interested in. But now I figured we'd go ahead and talk about the ports, which there isn't really a whole lot to talk about here, right? Like you got an Ethernet port on the back, you got a USB port here, you got an HDMI port. Obviously, the amount of ports available will vary from console to console. You know, you got the power plug here, which is, funnily enough, say if you have a PlayStation 2 Slim, for example, that same power plug will work right here. How do I know that? It's because my buddy back in the day, he brought his PS4 over to my house. This was back in like, I don't know what year it would have been, 2017, 2018. He was like, oh man, I want to play my game, but I forgot to bring my power cord. And then I was like, let me see the back for a minute. So I looked at it, I was like, huh. So I went to my PS2 because I was like, I know that plug because the PS2 was like, you know, my console growing up. And I looked at it, I was like, it's the same plug. So we went, try to plug it in because obviously there could have been a bit of an incompatibility there for one reason or another. And nope. Booted on just fine. He played it all night and it just worked. And it's the same plug that like the PS2 has, PS3 has, PS4 has, and I believe even the PS5 has. I know originally I said we were going to talk about accessories, but honestly there's not really a whole lot that I could talk about when it comes to accessories, right? Like you got I don't know, you got the controllers, you could maybe get some chargers if you want that, like a charging dock for your controllers, but this isn't like an Xbox 360 where you gotta think about the Kinect, or a PS2 with the iToy, or the Wii where you need to buy the console and then 5 million accessories, you know what I mean? It's just, that's just kind of how it is. I guess next up we should go ahead and talk about the DualShock 4, which is one of my favorite controllers of all time, man. It's been a while since I've used a DualShock 4, since on PlayStation 5 you can use the PS5 controller for both PS5 games and PS4 games. For a while, I would always just grab my PS4 out of my drawer, or my PS4 controller out of my drawer, and use that when I played PS4 games with my PS5, because you can hook this up to a PS5, and as soon as you click the button, it'll automatically switch to this. However, my controller has a bit of an issue where it won't take a charge through the USB slot anymore. It'll only take it through the bottom, which means I have to use my charging dock, which just makes it a bit more inconvenient, I guess, to use this controller, since I can't charge it otherwise, and the battery life, it's not bad on the DualShock 4, but it's definitely no Nintendo Wii U Pro controller, you know what I mean? Because, man, my Wii U Pro controller, I can charge that thing, leave it in my drawer for months, pull it out, still has a full charge, and it'll run for like 20 plus hours. That thing is insane. DualShock 4s, though, I couldn't give you an actual battery life, but I mean, I don't know. I could go for an entire, like, 8-hour play session and not even have to worry about charging it, and then the next day maybe still get some life out of it, you know what I mean? So it's not going to be a big deal. It's not like the battery life is actually bad on these things. That being said, I say that as somebody who owns the version 2 of the DualShock 4, because there is a difference. So normally you see this bar right here. This lights up on any DualShock 4. However, there's two versions. The first version of the DualShock 4 that released back in, like, 2013, only this part lights up. But then they had a version 2 that they released, like, a little bit after that, where you will actually see the light come through on the touch bar now, and the controller also has a little bit longer battery life. So my experience may just be subjective. You know, DualShock 4, if you get like a version 1, for example, might have worse battery life, but, you know, from my experience, it lasts for a while. It's a really good controller. It's very comfortable. It's one of my favorite controllers of all time. I love the DualShock 4. And similar to any other controller, if, you know, for any other console, it comes with tons of different colors. Similar to what I was saying before with the consoles, there's like a Spider-Man version of it, the Black Ops 3 version of it. There's, you know, like red, purple, blue, etc. Whatever color you could think of, it probably exists. Next up, I figured we would go ahead and talk about how online play works. So you have PlayStation Plus, as you've always had for, you know, many years at this point. However, the prices have changed. So back in the day, it used to be $60 a year, and then you pay like however much per month, and, you know, it is what it is. But nowadays they've upped the price up to about $80 per year for the base tier. This is going off of USD, by the way, so it may vary, you know, region to region, and price hikes can happen at any time. So about $80 per year for Essential, $120 for Extra, and $160 for Premium. And again, that is a annual price. There is monthly options available, but I would always recommend against that, because it'll just end up costing you way more in the long run, especially for that Premium tier. It is also worth noting you do not need any subscriptions if you want to play free-to-play games online, so think Fortnite, Warzone, etc. You can play those online for free without a subscription. But if we could just kind of go ahead and talk about some of the differences between Essential, Extra, and Premium, since this is relatively new. They just launched this about 3 years ago now at this point. So we'll go ahead and just kind of go in order, I guess. With Essential, you get online plays you would expect. You also get some other basic things like cloud saves. And you also get 3 free games every month. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. I think there may have been a time in the past where they only gave away like 2 games, but it's been a while since they've done that. So yeah, you're going to be getting about 3 games per month. Sometimes they give away 4. That happens on the first Tuesday of every month, and no game ever leaves that service, because once you claim that game, as long as you're a PlayStation Plus member, any tier, you will keep those PlayStation Plus Essential games forever, as long as you remain a PlayStation Plus member. Now, to talk about Extra, this is where it starts to get into Game Passy territory. So, Extra is going to be your tier where you have a lot of games available, right? Think of this comparatively to Xbox's Game Pass console tier, where you have a lot of games available, hundreds of games even, and I mean, that's just kind of it. It's all PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 period games. Sometimes it gets day one releases. But for the most part, for a lot of people, this will probably be the best bang for buck again, because it's only $120 a year and you still get access to a ton of games. But then there's the tier that I'm subscribed to, and I would recommend most enthusiasts to subscribe to as well, that being the $160 per year tier, that being the premium tier. With this, you get all of the benefits from Essential, from Extra, but with added ones yet. So you get access to game streaming, which in itself may be like, okay, day. Why would I necessarily want that? And that's because it's the only way to access PlayStation 3 games on PlayStation 4, just due to the fact that the console obviously wouldn't be powerful enough to emulate the PlayStation 3, and there isn't the hardware inside of it to actually run PlayStation 3 games. In order to get a PlayStation 3 game running on a PS4, you need to completely re-engineer it and develop it for the PlayStation 4 specifically. You can't just run the games natively on there, unfortunately. So if you want to play PlayStation 3 games on your PlayStation 4, game streaming is going to be the only way to do it, but it's also worth noting that game streaming has also just gotten a lot better in recent times. I made a video recently discussing game streaming, and for some reason, the results that I got on PC kind of made me, I don't know, I guess second guess things, right? Because I made the video, put it out, and my experience game streaming on PC wasn't the greatest, but when I went to test it on actual hardware, the game streaming seems to run better on an actual PlayStation for some reason, so I wonder if they have different server blades for different streaming platforms. I don't understand why that would be the case, but it is a possibility, I suppose. But the streaming that I experienced, at least, has been a lot better and a lot more consistent lately. I went to stream, for example, Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z for the PS3, and it ran very well. And that's for the PS3, where the server blades have always been quite infamous for not being the, the best in the world. And then just streaming some other games, right, like some PS4 and PS5 games, and it was actually running really well. Almost felt native in some instances. So game streaming has gotten a lot better there. But also, furthermore, the reason why I said enthusiasts would probably want to subscribe to the premium tier is because you get access to all of the classic games. Think PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, as well as a bunch of remasters and remakes of, games from that generation as well. They've been adding a lot of hidden gems to the service lately, or at least just games that didn't get a lot of recognition back in the day. Think Armored Core, and then you have, games that were well-renowned back in the day just finally being re-added to the service, like Time Splitters 1, 2, and Future Perfect. You could probably look up a list online just to see what all games and, different things are available on each service if, you want to look more into it before deciding to commit to one service or the other. But if you're an enthusiast and if you play a lot of games, both retro and modern, I recommend just kind of going for that premium tier. But if you just want access to a lot of games, but you don't necessarily care about the streaming or the classics catalog, then I feel like extra would be a happy middle ground. Or if you already have some games that you plan on playing, or maybe you just, kind of want to get, maybe let's just say you're buying the system to play Call of Duty, so you're going to need PlayStation Plus to be able to play online, because that's a bit of a discrepancy, right? You could play Warzone without PS Plus because it's a free game, but you couldn't, say, play Modern Warfare 3 or Black Ops 6 because it's a premium title, so you need PlayStation Plus for that. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a whole confusing thing there. But let's just say you're buying it to be a Call of Duty machine. If you want to get PS Plus for it, you could just roll with Essential for $80 a year, and you'd be all set, and you'd also get 3 free games every month, which is a nice bonus. But honestly, when it comes to the console itself and things that I feel like you should know, I really feel like that's about it. If we're talking about like a PlayStation 2, a PlayStation 1, Xbox 360 even, I feel like there's a bit, especially like a PlayStation 3, because there's a lot of discrepancies there depending on like what model you get. This is a different scenario where everything from the Xbox One and PS4 generation up to now, it's very straightforward. You get the console, controller, games, buy your online service, you're off to the races. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. But we're gonna go ahead and talk about some games now. So I have about 30 exclusives and like 30 third-party games, something, I don't know. I have like 50 some games that we're gonna be talking about just because I wanted to give you guys as much variety as possible while also touching on both the exclusives and the third-party side of things. So let's go ahead and touch on some of the exclusives. This is not a comprehensive list. This is just a basic list of like 50 games to get you off and rolling. And then, hey, if you guys ever need any more game recommendations, I'm your guy. I've played thousands of games in my day, all right? If you guys ever need any recommendations for games, just hit me up in the comments, hit me up in the DMs, one of my social medias. I got you. But anyway, let's go over the exclusives. First up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Spider-Man, the one that released in 2018. This is hands down one of the best Spider-Man games, one of the best superhero games, and just let alone one of the best games of all time. It is one of my favorite games of all time. This game is absolutely fantastic. If you're like me and you grew up with the Spider-Man 2 game, the one from 2004, based on the Tobey Maguire movie, this one takes like everything that you probably would have loved about that game, between the amazing web swinging, the combat, just the story, everything about it, and it just brings it to like, the modern era and a newer generation, you know what I mean? It is also worth noting that for a lot of the games we're going to be talking about, there is remastered versions available on PS5 if, you want to get it running into like a fancy 4K, 60 FPS, whatever. But, we're talking about the PS4 here, and that's where the game initially released. I feel like Spider-Man is one of those must-have games if you get a PS4. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend God of War. This one also released in 2018. It is a continuation of the God of War games from back in the day, but it's very much its own thing, right? Like, it's still kind of hack and slashy, but not in like the Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden way that we saw back in the day. This is much more, third person, over the shoulder, still hacking and slashing, still a lot of combat, but a little bit slower, but still just as intense and gritty. You guys know the movie Logan, or even if you just read comic books like the Old Man Logan story, that's basically what God of War 2018 is. Next up, I'm gonna go ahead and recommend The Last of Us Remastered and Part 2. I'm just kind of bundling both of these in here. Actually, that is one thing I forgot to show off. I wanted to show what the games look like, just so you guys know. This is what a PS4 case looks like. There's the side, and there's the back. It comes in a blue case. If you get a PlayStation Hits copy of a game, which I would never recommend just because they look ugly, this will be red, and the side will be red, and the whole side will kind of just be consumed in red. Again, I don't recommend that because PlayStation Hits games look ugly. If you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you know I hate Greatest Hits, Player's Choice, PlayStation Hits, anything like that. I just like my default copies that actually look good. Oh, and usually you can tell if a game's a PS4 exclusive because it'll usually say only on PlayStation at the top there, so... Yeah, The Last of Us Remastered in Part 2, I'm not going to talk about those games just because it's very hard to talk about them without spoiling anything. I feel like they're games where if you can go into it as blind as possible, knowing literally nothing, that's going to be the best way to experience those games. I will just say they are both in my top 5 favorite games of all time, and they've changed me. Just straight up as a person, it changed me forever, and I cry every time I go back to play those games. Not just because they're sad, but because they're so real, raw, gritty, and human, and it's astonishing and very admirable that Naughty Dog had the guts that they did to make those games and tell the stories that they did so unapologetically and in such a raw manner. Those games are some of the best games ever made. Please play them. Next up, we have Detroit Become Human. This is another game that I don't want to talk too much about, but it's very similar to, say, games like Life is Strange or Heavy Rain or the Walking Dead games, which we're going to be talking about a little later on here, where it's more story-based. You're just kind of like, it's sort of like watching a movie, but there's still gameplay elements here and there. It's a very good game. It's one of those games where there's also a lot of choices along the way, depending on, what dialogue choices you want to make, what actions you want to make. It can result in different outcomes and all that, so I highly recommend Detroit Become Human. It is a very, very, very good game, and it'll definitely get you thinking. Next up, we have Horizon Zero Dawn, which is basically like, what if, oh man, what's even a good comparison here? I don't want to say necessarily just like Assassin's Creed, because the game plays nothing like Assassin's Creed, but just think of like a typical Ubisoft game, but if there was mechanical dinosaurs everywhere, and if it was made by Sony, which just means that, the quality bar is just way up here, man. Horizon Zero Dawn is such an amazing game. Both this and its sequel, Forbidden West, which is actually also available on PlayStation 4. It was heavily marketed as a PlayStation 5 game because at its core, it is, but it also released on PlayStation 4. So if you like Horizon Zero Dawn, if you don't have a PS5, but, you want to get Horizon Forbidden West at some point down the line, you can get that. And the same goes for God of War, actually. The sequel, Ragnarok, which released back in 2022, is also available on PS4, even though it was heavily marketed as a PS5 game. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Ghost of Tsushima. This is another one of my favorite games of all time. Basically, in this game, it's similar to Horizon Zero Dawn in the way that it is an open world game, but Ghost of Tsushima is not your typical open world game. This game takes place during the Mongol invasion of Japan, and you play as the main character. Hold on, it's been a bit since I've practiced my Japanese. Jin Sakai, it's the name of the main character, or just Jin Sakai if you want to say it as English as possible. But basically, you're gonna be doing a bunch of badass Japanese sword guy stuff. You got your horse in the game that you could ride along on, and this game has one of my favorite photo modes of all time. When I was playing through this game for the first time, I took so many screenshots. I literally made a album in my Photos app just so I could add all of my screenshots of Ghost of Tsushima in it. And I will say, if you play Ghost of Tsushima, if you're like me and you typically just kind of stick to a main quest in a game, maybe sometimes go off and do side quests, I'd recommend doing all of these side quests here in Ghost of Tsushima. It is very relevant to the story. You don't have to do it, you can just stick to the main quest, but I would recommend going off and doing the side quest stuff because you get a lot of important character story moments, you get a lot of just genuinely quality moments in general, right? Like, if you skip out on the side content, you're almost skipping out on half the game. There's a lot of great set pieces, a lot of great character moments. You get to know the characters a lot better, and it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of great content there. It's very similar to, say, Cyberpunk 2077, where you don't have to do the side content, but I feel like you'd really be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't. I just realized we have 50 games to go through, and we're only on the 6th one, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the pace a little bit. Next up, I'm gonna go ahead and recommend Death Stranding. Main character's Norman Reedus. That's all I need to say. No, but seriously, some people have fallen off this game in the early hours just because you spend the first bit of the game just delivering packages, and they're kind of like, oh, is this gonna be the entire adventure? No, trust me. Once you get to a few chapters into the game, we'll say, don't want to spoil it necessarily, things really pick up and go in some crazy directions. It is a very good game, and one that will definitely go like this to your expectations. It went to some places I was not expecting it to go to. It is a fantastic game. Please play Death Stranding, and please give it a fair chance. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Bloodborne. This is, you know, another one of the Souls-like games. Think Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Sekiro. Bloodborne is made by them same folks. You're going to die a lot, but you're also going to be doing a lot of badass stuff in this game. You got, like, the trick weapons, like the Saw Cleaver, such a cool weapon. You can, like, you can, like, hit enemies with it, and then, like, extend it while you're in the middle of a combo, and then do all this crazy stuff. You got, like, you know, a little, like, pistol you can, like, parry enemies with and stuff. Bloodborne's one of my favorite games of all time. Such a good game. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend a bit of a maybe unexpected one, that being The Order 1886. This game didn't get a lot of love when it first released, and, you know, some people kind of panicked, like, oh, it's, you know, it's a short game, this, that, or the other. I always thought the whole short versus long game thing was such an irrelevant and moronic argument. I really don't care how long my game is. I would happily pay $70 for a 3-hour experience if that 3-hour experience is the best 3 hours of my life. But likewise, I wouldn't necessarily just put down $70 for a game that's 500 hours just because it's 500 hours. If it's full of a bunch of bloated nonsense, then, you know, why the hell would I waste my time or my money? That being said, The Order 1886 is definitely a quality experience, and I highly recommend it. And I really always like the presentation of the game, right? With, like, the letterboxing and just the way the game looks graphically and the way that it plays. It's a really good game. I highly recommend it, and again, it's an exclusive to the PS4. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Until Dawn. This game is similar to Detroit Become Human in the way that you're going to be able to make, you know, various choices throughout the game. It's sort of like a movie in the way that you watch a lot of the game happen, but there is still a lot of gameplay elements in there. I'm sorry if you guys see me blinking and having trouble looking at the camera, man. This LED is, like, starting to really mess with my eyes, man. It's so bright today for some reason. But do keep in mind that Until Dawn is a horror game, so, you know, if you get spooked real easy, then maybe just kind of consider this one. But yeah, Until Dawn, it can be a bit spooky. You know, I've played a lot of horror games in my day, and it even had me jumping out of my seat. So just, you know, do keep that in mind. But it's a very good game. I wouldn't let that detract you. It's a very good game. I really think you should play it. Uncharted 4, it is worth playing the first 3 games before you play this one. Like, you know, if you're new to Uncharted, I recommend going back and playing the first 3 games, which you can do on PS4, thankfully, through the Nathan Drake collection. But, you know, if you wanted to, you could dive into Uncharted 4 blind. Again, I feel like it would be worth having some of the context just so you can really, like, fall in love with the characters and really understand the relationships going into Uncharted 4. But, you know, even if you don't do that for one reason or another, Uncharted 4 stands on its own as an amazing time, a great adventure, and, you know, I'm just smiling right now because I'm thinking back to my first time playing that game, and gosh, dude, it almost makes me want to tear up. I had such a good time with that game. I really need to go back and replay it at some point here. It is such a good game. Please play Uncharted 4. Next up, we got Killzone Shadowfall, which is unfortunately the most recent entry in PlayStation's first-person shooter Killzone series. It's still unfortunate that this was the last one. Not, you know, not due to the quality of the game or anything. You know, it's a great game. It's just unfortunate because, like where's Killzone, man? Like, Sony's just sitting on all these IPs and they aren't doing nothing with them. Great game, though. Next up, I want to recommend Concrete Genie, which is a super underrated game. It's really hard to explain the game. It's very artistically driven, but it's really cool because it lets the player take control of that artisticness. I will just say that by the time I rolled credits, I was crying like a baby just because this game is so beautiful, and it's one of those games where it truly is an experience, and I really feel like everybody should play it at least once if they get the chance. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Ratchet & Clank, which is a remake of the original PS2 Ratchet & Clank game. It also ties into the Ratchet & Clank movie. Fantastic game. Next up, we have another remake, that being Shadow of the Colossus, and oh my gosh, man. For anybody that hasn't played it before, it is also available on PS2. This is just like the remastered version of it. Basically, Shadow of the Colossus is a game where you slay a bunch of big bad bosses. You got these giant, towering, hairy beasts, and you also got, like, these flying dragon-looking things, and dude, the game makes you feel like such a badass, bro. I remember, honestly, I forget the name of the boss, but I was running, you know, it's the one in, like, the desert with the giant flying one. I'm not gonna spoil anything, don't worry about it. But it's like this giant boss that, like, flies around in the air, and, you know, you're, like, running through the desert because you gotta try to keep up with it, and then you gotta, like, try to, like, jump on it, like, attack it and all that, and it's just so badass, right? Like, the music gets going, and then your character, like, screams for its horse. It's like, aggro, and then, like, your horse, like, runs in under you, like, jump up on it, you're, like, chasing after the boss, and then you, like, jump off your horse onto the boss, you're, like, climbing it, like, stabbing it in the face and shit. Dude, this game is so badass. If you haven't played Shadow of the Colossus before, do yourself a favor and play this damn game. Next up, I'm gonna recommend Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a remake of one of the best RPGs of all time, and they're handling this remake a bit differently than you would see from most remakes. Rather than just being a one-to-one conversion, they're splitting the game into 3 different bits. So you got Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and then, you know, the third game. But if you want to experience the first part of the trilogy, you can do so here with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Next up, I'm going to recommend a bit of an underrated one, that being Alienation, which which is a twin-stick action RPG shooter. Very good game, very underrated, please play it. Next up, I'm going to recommend Gran Turismo Sport, which is Sony's flagship racing franchise. Microsoft/Xbox has Forza, Nintendo has Mario Kart, and yeah, PlayStation has Gran Turismo, and this game is fantastic. Originally, it was online only, but they did add an offline mode down the line, so that is now available. Next up, I'm going to recommend Infamous Second Son, which is very similar to Killzone. This is unfortunately the last Infamous game that we got, which is really unfortunate because this game was also fantastic, and I love Infamous. Next up, I'm going to recommend Entwined, which is another underrated gem that is exclusive to the PS3/PS4/PS Vita. It is this beautiful game about a fish and a bird that are in love, but they simply can't be together yet, you know, despite everything. I won't spoil it, but it is a beautiful game. You can beat it in the span of maybe like an hour or two, but it is so worth the adventure. It made me cry because it was just so beautiful. Next up, we have a bunch of third-party games, and there's even more of these. So I'm going to try to keep the yapping to a minimum. Titanfall 2. It's one of the best first-person shooters I've ever played. Not only is the multiplayer great, and I'm pretty sure it's still alive, but there's also a fantastic campaign that you need to experience at least once. It is so good, man. Next up, I'm going to recommend Borderlands 3. Once again, I love the Borderlands franchise, and Borderlands 3 is fantastic, and you can also play all the other Borderlands games on PS4. You got Borderlands 1, 2, pre-sequel, and 3, but you also got the Tales of the Borderlands games, which are made by Telltale Games, and they're very similar to the more story-based games like Detroit Become Human that we already talked about, but it's still, you know, part of that franchise technically, so if you really want more Borderlands story there after beating those 4 games, you got more. Next, I'm gonna recommend Need for Speed Heat, a great racing game, and then Crash 4, It's About Time. Crash 4 is the long-awaited sequel to one of my favorite 3D platformer games of all time, that being Crash Bandicoot. It's kind of funny how they just kind of skipped over everything that happened after Crash 3, like Wrath of Cortex, Twin Sanity, you know, Mind Over Mutant, none of that ever happened, man. It's just Crash 4, It's About Time, but fantastic game. Definitely pick that one up. Next up, I'm going to recommend The Witcher 3. I think I should just kind of go ahead and just list these off, and I'll just kind of do this with my finger to indicate we're talking about a new game. Yeah, so The Witcher 3, one of the best RPGs of all time. Batman Arkham Knight. You don't necessarily need to play Arkham City and Arkham Asylum first, though I'd recommend doing so if you want more context of the story, but Arkham Knight still stands on its own as an amazing game, as a great story. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Devil May Cry 5. Super fast-paced, super action-heavy. Once again, one of my favorite action games of all time. It is so good, and you really don't need to play the other DMC games first. You can just start with 5, and you'll understand what's going on for the most part with no issue. Next up, I'm gonna recommend Far Cry 5. This one is easily one of the most unique Far Cry games, and it really has you questioning everything by the end of like, wait, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? What's even going on? What is this ending? But, you know, all in a good way. Far Cry 5 is a fantastic game, and it is beautiful. Like, graphically speaking, it is just, whew, chef's kiss mastery is beautiful. Battlefield 1. You gotta play Battlefield 1. The online is still, you know, pretty populated to this day if you want to play multiplayer, but also just experiencing the campaign. The game looks great, you know, graphically. It's very cinematic, and again, the campaign is very unique because it's not like most games where it's sort of a to B story. No, it's actually a bigger story comprised of a bunch of mini stories, and it's quite a beautiful game. There's a lot of genuinely heart-wrenching and heart-touching moments in this game that you probably wouldn't expect going into it, but it's a really good game. You really got to play it. Next up, we got 2 that I'm going to kind of combine into one just for different reasons. We got Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the 2019 reboot, as well as Black Ops 3. So if you want, you know, like campaign, multiplayer, a game that's still alive, go for Modern Warfare 2019. If you just want the zombies though, like that classic Call of Duty zombies experience, Black Ops 3 is your one-stop shop for all the zombies goodness. You got all the World at War, almost all of Black Ops 1, barring Call of the Dead. Oh, and barring 5 as well. You got one of the best maps from Black Ops 2, that being Origins, and then all of the amazing Black Ops 3 maps, man. So if you want that zombies goodness, go there. Otherwise, unfortunately, multiplayer is a little dead in Black Ops 3 these days, unfortunately. Obviously, you can still find lobbies, but again, if you buy the DLC, that's a whole thing there, and it's just, you know, the game's getting older at this point, so I'd recommend just getting that game if you're specifically interested in zombies. There is also a campaign in the game, but that one was also hit or miss for a lot of players, unfortunately. So again, that's just that's kind of how it's separated. But you know, they're both relatively cheap games if you want to pick both up. So if you want the campaign, the multiplayer, and a game that's just more alive, get Modern Warfare 2019. And if you just want the zombies, get Black Ops 3, or you could even get a more recent entry like Modern Warfare 3 or Black Ops 6 if you really want to be like in the weeds with what's going on with Call of Duty at the moment. Going further down the list, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, so I just had to recommend this one. It's still online, still getting updates to this day. Fantastic game. Minecraft, this one's a no dub. It's Minecraft. You gotta have Minecraft if you're buying a new console. GTA 5, this is another no dull one. Dark Souls 3, very similar to Bloodborne that we talked about before. It's one of the Souls games. It is very challenging, but it's a fantastic game. It is a masterpiece. It made me cry when I beat it for the first time. It's a beautiful work of art. Please play Dark Souls 3. It's a masterpiece. Life is Strange, True Colors, similar to Detroit Become Human or Until Dawn. This is more of a story-heavy game where your decisions matter, and you're more gonna be, you know, you're gonna be there along for the ride. You'll still be playing the game, but it is much more of sort of like playing through a movie, you know what I mean? And very similar to that, The Walking Dead Season 1. This game did originally release on like PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, but it was remastered in a way for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, etc. So if you want to pick it up there, you can do so as like the complete package. And they also have a version of the game that includes Season 1, 2, 3, the final season, like some of the spin-offs and all that. But if you were to start anywhere with The Walking Dead games, I recommend starting with Season 1 just because, well, you know, it's Season 1, that's the first game, and the end of it always... Don't matter how many times I play it, man. It always gets me. It's a really good game, though. It's fantastic. Next up, I'm gonna go ahead and recommend Tetris Effect. Now, you might be like, okay, Tetris, what are we talking about here? But no, Tetris Effect is genuinely it's a game, it's one of my safety games. It's one of my comfort games. It's a game that I replay at least once per year because it is beautiful. The music, the vibes, the gameplay, the way it all meshes together, it is a beautiful game, so take my word for it. Tetris Effect, please pick it up. It is also a part of the PlayStation Plus extra catalog, so, you know, if you get that service we were talking about earlier, you can also play it that way. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Doom 2016. Speaks for itself, it's Doom. Next up, I'm going to recommend Persona 5 Royal. You could also just get Persona 5, but I'd recommend getting 5 Royal just because it's 5, but with more content and with more story, and includes everything that happened during the time skip in the original game, so definitely pick up Persona 5 Royal. It is a longer game, okay? It's gonna take you like over 100 hours to beat, but it's worth every second of it, man. I love Persona in general. Persona 3, 4, 5, you know, any of the other Shin Megami Tensei games. I love everything in that universe, man. They're so good, and more people need to play them. I know the games are getting more popular, but we need more people to play them. Red Dead Redemption 2 speaks for itself. One of the best games of all time. Celeste, a beloved indie gem. Resident Evil 2 Remake, a remake of one of my favorite games of all time. Knocked it out of the park. Diablo 3 for that action RPG goodness. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. Similar to Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, you're gonna get your ass kicked, but it's gonna be worth it every time. Monster Hunter World, one of the best Monster Hunter games of all time. Infinitely replayable. Tons of gear to collect, tons of gear to craft, tons of badass monsters to chase down. Monster Hunter World, trust me, like even if you played one of the newer games like say Wilds or Rise or whatever, still go back and try out World. It is such an amazing game. This next one will require an additional player, but that is It Takes Two. Now, if you're anything like me and you're a loner and you don't have any friends or significant others, then, you know, if you really want to experience this game, you might need to hook up 2 controllers to your console and you know, just gotta play it that way both at the same time. Honestly, I was thinking about trying that because I haven't played It Takes Two yet, just because I don't have any friends or girlfriends or anything. So I was thinking about hooking up 2 like DualShock 4s or 2 DualSenses to my PS5 or whatever, and just going through the game that way. So I'm gonna give it a shot, and we'll see how it works, as I want to experience the game. Next up, I'm gonna recommend Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. This is a remake of the 2 classic Tony Hawk games, like, come on now. I grew up with the original, you know, first 2 games on the PS1, and they're still some of my favorite games of all time to this day. They're so good, and they knocked it out of the park with the remakes. They're so good. Next up, I'm gonna recommend Mortal Kombat 11, just because, you know, you need a fighting game if you're getting a console. There is also other options available, such as Injustice 2 or Mortal Kombat X, or, you know, like Mortal Kombat 1, but I just feel like 11, when it comes to that overall complete package, considering the fact that this game is, you know, it got all the support that it's gonna get. It got all the DLC it's gonna get. Not to mention the fact that since it is a bit older now and it's gone on sale so many times, you can pick up a copy for like $10 or less at this point, even if it's like a complete edition that includes a bunch of DLC. Can't go wrong with Mortal Kombat 11. Easily one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games, period. And then finally, I'm gonna go ahead and recommend Dead Cells. This is a Metroidvania roguelite, and that's really all I can say about it, man. It is such a gnarly game. It is so good. I love it. It can definitely be a bit challenging, but once you learn the game and once you learn the ropes, you shouldn't have any problem getting through it. You know, it'll take some time, just like any game. It might be a bit of a learning curve there, but it'll definitely be worth it. It is such a good game. But with that, that takes us to the end of our list. I know that was a lengthy list, but I wanted to give you guys a lot of options for games and tell you a bit about the games, just in case you wanted to, you know anything about the games before picking them up. But, you know, here at the end, I did also want to mention just a few free-to-play games, such as, like, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Roblox, Destiny 2, Call of Duty Warzone. Again, if you don't feel like paying for PS Plus and you literally just want a console that can play games for free and, you know, you don't want to worry about any of the other bells and whistles, there's a ton of free-to-play games available that you can, you know, go on there and search through, right? You got, if you want racing games, you got, like, Disney Speedstorm or the Asphalt games. Those are free racing games. If you want first-person shooters or battle royales, already mentioned some of those. If you want a game that can be like literally everything all at once, Fortnite and Roblox have all of those experiences inside of them. So, you know, they're free to play. You don't need to worry about PS Plus. So if you just want want something like that, that's also an option. But outside of that, yeah, that takes us to the end of the buying guide. I know that was a bit long-winded, especially once we got to the games, but I like these to be as complete as possible so you guys know all of your options, especially if you're, you know, if you happen to be a bit of a newer gamer or just not as knowledgeable. I really want to help people have as many options as possible and just kind of help them figure things out as they go. So again, if you guys need any more game recommendations, you know I'm your guy, and if you have any other questions or need any help with anything else when it comes to this buying guide or the PlayStation 4 in general, just let me know. I'm your guy. But anyway, I had a lot of fun putting this together and recording this, so, you know, you can already bet that there will be more buying guides for me in the future, so I'll see you guys in the next one. But anyway, as always, massive shout out to all the patrons, and remember to remember global out here, and remember shout out to the World Team Alasking, and big dead of any of the big shit that on GT run up on the show. Thank you guys so much, guys. The Literal Legends, I love you. Have an amazing day, stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.